All right, welcome everyone. Today's video is going to be over a sinking lure that I've been fishing in the last couple months, and this is it's the Kanna 48s. It's made by a company, Indigo Trout. They're a newer JDM lure company out of Japan. Bait Finesse Empire had some in stock and periodically keeps getting some in stock. Some things that I've been liking about it. It has a square bill on there, which is somewhat unique. You see a couple JDM lures here and there with a square bill on there. But that's actually been working really good deflecting off of cover. As you can see, I have two single hooks on here. Comes stock with treble hooks, but I usually, in a lot of this woody, rocky areas, I tend to only have one hook on the back. But I've been using two just to see how well that square bill actually works, and it's been working really good. I come up with a lot less hang-ups than even having a different lure. Let's say like the creep aim I've been fishing a lot with just one hook on the back. It gets hung up even less than that. So I really like this lure for these rivers and it's really dark water too. So I can't see everything that's going on in the water, but it's been really good. Good flash vibration that I'll show you guys in a little bit when I'm fishing it. I'm gonna get this thing out on the water. I'm gonna talk about some of my features that I like about it, and also some things that I wish that could be improved upon it. One area that I throw the Kana in a lot compared to other baits, you see up on the shoreline, there's a whole bunch of tag elder and other brush that's in the water, and also there's a lot of downed trees. It's pretty common all the way up this river. So basically what I'll do is I'll cast as close as I can to a lot of that cover. I'd be a little bit apprehensive with most other baits, but I just cast up by this cover, and that current's gonna be sucking that bait underneath. I just give it some rips like this. Ooh, got one right here. Oh, I had one on. I was trying to demonstrate doing that rip technique and I got one right away. See, I'll get back in there. I'll just let the lure ride the current. I was just giving it rips. We're going to talk about that in a little bit later. But the lure is it has a really good horizontal shimmy to it. Like when you just let it sit it just shimmies back and forth. And a lot of times that's where I get a lot of my strikes from. I just kind of rip it almost like a lipless crankbait, like a rattle trap. I'll just get right there and I'll just kind of rip it back. And I'll watch my line. And I'll just let that lure ride the current, kind of fluttering horizontally. Especially in this dirty water, it gives me a really good visual flash, but also a lot of vibration. And then the fish are able to track that down. I'll mix that up with like a steady retrieve. I'm able to come in stuff like that. Which granted, you can see where the top of the tree is. You can see where the top of the tree is, but also you got to think that there's so much more tree underneath the water that we can't see right now. Let's come right in there and just try to ride this current as best I can, just watching my line, where my line's at. Oh, come on, come on. There we go. Whew, little brook trout. Little brook trout. I'll take it. I want to drop my reel in the current. Yeah, just a little single barbless hook comes right out like that. Oh, nice brook trout. I'll let that one go. Ooh, there he goes. That's another thing too, having single barbless hooks in a silicone net, never get hung up. So kind of how I got that fish. So with all that rain runoff, and you see it's real hilly, so it has there's a lot of runoff into this river. And there's a couple, well, there's at least this channel right here that comes in. I remember coming here one time before and there's barely any water there. So now that there's some current there, and it's gonna be flushing a lot of those insects and such that were up there. So there's a lot of nutrients coming in. So the fish was sitting right here in that little eddy right there. So the camera might not be able to pick it up, but I was just ripping it up and down. And right there's a drop off, right where the main river channel is, and that's where that fish hooked up. So that yo-yo action and the ability to be able to track straight through that, like where the heavy current comes through, I can't attribute it to that's why it got caught, but in my head, I think that it's definitely a good, unique property of sinking baits. The ability to be able to fish the same, whether it's slow water or fast water. Let me see if there's any more back there. Some other things I like about it too is this paint almost looks brand new. There's a couple itty bitty scratches I can see here and there from the hooks, but I've been fishing this thing really hard around rocks, logs. I've even like casting a little bit too far and I hit rocks with it. Bill's still intact, and it also doesn't have any major chips on there at all. I think the biggest mark I can see, if you can see underneath this K here, it would be above the K from your angle. That's the biggest mark that's on this thing. I mean, you can look on the bottom. There's no hook rash at all, like you get with a lot of bass crankbaits and some trout baits. So the paint, they're hand painted and super, super durable. So as far as casting distance, it's good. It's not the greatest compared to some of the other sinking baits. This is 48 millimeters in length, and it weighs 4 grams. Like the Creep Aim 46S still weighs 4 grams. It's a little bit more compact than this lure, and it does cast slightly better. This lure, one thing that's good with it though is that it hardly ever tumbles, even if there's a lot of wind, despite not having an internal weight transfer system in there. It does have weights, but they don't slide back and forth like an internal system. And let's say the Spearhead Ryuki that I use quite a bit, the 50S, that weighs 4.5 grams and noticeably casts better. But it's not all about how far you can cast the lure. Like, you still get pretty good distance right there. And this is a stock Shimano SLX BFS. There's no like upgraded bearings in there, not an upgraded spool or anything. So it still casts really good. This lure would be able to cast a little bit better with the more, I guess, trout specific BFS setup. But the lure, I've never had any issues trying to reach out to get to a fishable area, especially because I'm fishing this lure around a lot of woody cover and rocks. I don't want to have a whole bunch of line out there and get hit at the end of a cast, and that fish dives further into a tree or around some rocks, and I'll probably end up losing it anyway. So to me, the castability, it's still good. It's not as good as some of the other sinking baits, but it's good enough for how I fish the lure and how most people will probably fish the lure. All right, so as you can see right here, the current's pretty strong. There's a big thunderstorm last night, but most of tonight, a little bit into the morning, and this water is about, I don't know, it's probably over a foot higher than normal right now. So it's creating a lot of current through here. And one thing that we're just sinking minnows in general shine, but I feel with the Kana especially, is that you can swim right through this stuff just fine. I mean, I know I'm going down current right now, which sometimes the current could go faster than what the lure can functionally swim, but you can still feel the good vibrations with the Kana, and I can still do that ripping motion. I just have to make sure I pick up my slack a little bit faster. But it tracks, even when I come kind of cross current, like I'll cast up here, I'll come cross current, and the lure is still, it is affected by the current, of course, but it still has a constant swimming motion. I'm not fighting the current, or the current's not making my bait roll. Seeing how the lure's a little bit more narrow, and it has a little bit flatter, like taller sides on it. It has a really tight wobble and swim through that current, so the current's not pushing it around like if it was a rounder shape. It'll kind of get pushed around, so it almost acts kind of like a keel of a boat when you're using the lure that way. All right, so where the square bill on the Kana really shines, as you can see right here, there's a lot of exposed tree roots, and those go further into the water. And then there's like a down log up here, if you can see that too. So what I like to do is right up against the bank, especially with this little bit faster water and higher water that's going on right now, those fish a lot of times will push to the outside bank like that. So I'll cast as close as I can at different angles, and I'll just keep bringing that lure across, and that square bill actually hit the roots and come over. A lot of times it draws a reaction strike from the trout. Sometimes it's just easier to get through than maybe a little bit down current. That's where you might run into the trout. But I like to be able to just really put these lures right up in there like that. Especially right now, just give it those little flutters. So let it just ride in the current. Then even like up here by this tree. Ooh, it's almost a bad backlash. I still got it by the tree. And you always have to assume that there's going to be more branches coming off of that tree. If you can see the base of the tree is up there, and you can see how long some of the branches are on the bottom of the tree. And generally the trees are triangular in shape, so you can kind of guess how how much branch comes off the tree, kind of near the point of the tree. Let's cast it up there like that. I'll make sure my line doesn't go loose in there to get tangled up. But I came across a whole bunch of the branches that just right over the top of them. A lot of times fish will come up and hit them. Ooh, I had a little guy follow right there. Just cast right up in there. And now I'll just let it sink a little bit more, kind of get a little bit more risky with it. I'll make sure I work it a little slower so maybe that fish will commit next time. Oh, there's that right there. I don't know what it is. Oh, come on. It's literally right in front of me. It's coming back. It keeps hitting me. I don't know what it is. That's so weird. They've got it. Oh, is that a, oh, it's a chub. It's a big old chub. Ooh, thanks. Big old chub though. Look at that thing. They're getting their fall colors too. I know that a lot of times people talk about brook trout and such getting their fall colors, but look at the fall colors on that thing. That nice iridescent purple with the orange accents. There's no way you can tell me that those things aren't fun to catch. Also, they're actually pretty fish in their own right. See, they have a face only a mother could love. I'll let that one go. It's not a trout, but still, as you can see, that fish first, it almost came out of the water after the lure, and then I was able to let it sit there, and it was able to find the lure again. So that thump and vibration, all the time, trout, all fish, they have the same tools pretty much to be able to find forage, and that just kind of proved right there that even though it's not a trout, in this dirty water, the fish is still able to track it down, and it hit multiple times on that lure. So it did a good enough job of drawing it in, and then eventually got hooked. All right, as you saw, the Kana definitely has some unique properties to take advantage of. If you fish it just in open water, if you're not going to be doing that rip retrieve, which some other hard baits can still do that, it's just not as easy. You're not really getting the most out of the lure. I think for me, how I get the most out of this hard bait is fishing a lot of those logs, rocks, really snaggy areas, and especially with how I'm wearing waders. I know it's an expensive lure, but wearing waders, I can just walk over there and unsnag it. Now, if you fish from shore, that might be a consideration. Be like, hey, if I snag up, I might not get this lure back. And so it being between like $17 and $18, it is on the higher end. It's not the most priciest Japanese hard bait, but it is up there in price, especially for my price point, how I like to buy lures. But it performs really well, and it does, like I said, I use it in those very specific situations with the logs, rocks, and snags, and it's actually produced a lot of fish for me. So if you want to see some more of these lure reviews or just BFS trout fishing in general, make sure you subscribe. Also, comment down below what you'd like to see in the future.